So try and recount the whole plot of Paradise Towers without laughing at the mention of the phrase bin liner.
Bin liner.
So, if you're a Season 24 defender, I imagine this'll be your favourite serial. And if you hate Season 24, maybe you'll like Dragonfire? So yeah, this is one of those infamously slated Classic Who serials that's since been getting loads of reappraisals and recognition in recent years. And I honestly get why, because I think this straightforwardly, unironically works. I showed it to Zim and she seemed to like it. Granted, she then immediately said goodbye, packed up all her things and drove off. She's coming back, right? It's almost like a reverse twin dilemma. There's such a gulf between its aesthetics and its goals, yet that doesn't detract from it. It's got such colourful and energetic characters, and yet sets are so run down, filthy looking and grimy, and it's also dimly lit. It's a very ugly looking story, but in a good way. The direction's pretty neat. It's not always two short sequences used for dialogue. Sometimes the camera work gets a bit more kinetic. I believe this was the same director as The Curse of Fenric, and I totally get why they brought him back. The obvious uninteresting answer as to why this thing was slated was obviously its presentation, because underneath it's a solid adaptation of High Rise in that it explains the point of High Rise to people who have never read High Rise. I'm a sucker for the kind of sci-fi it's doing. A technologically advanced but isolated society, plus some kind of systemic flaw or a madman with a bomb, multiplied by years of neglect, abandonment and decay before our protagonists arrive to uncover the mystery of what happened here, equals Gridlock or Bioshock. Yeah, the bad guy for this really does come across like an Andrew Ryan type. Screw you, parasites. You don't deserve the masterpiece I built with my own two tentacles.
This world is run by the unremarkables. Don't corrupt the host to pacify the parasites.
Kragoon is a great architect who has managed to get away with having destructive tendencies for so long because cancel culture hadn't been invented yet. Actually, I don't know about that. The last thing he worked on was something called Miracle City, and the next thing he's working on is a fucking holiday resort. That strikes me as a real take whatever work you can get kind of thing. Though I can see the humour wearing a little bit thin for some people.
345/12 subsection 3 here. I'm proceeding along corridor 5673 towards section 301 on floor 34.
What are you doing there, body cleaner 479?
Poor caretaker number 345/12 subsection 3. Caretaker number 579/14 subsection 8. I'll come.
What do you think you're doing, body cleaner 479?
327 appendix 3 subsection 9 death.
That said, I challenge you not to burst out laughing when Pex saves Mel from the Razzies. He bursts in while she's still screaming, and then off the top of his head immediately starts introducing himself all over again to everyone who already knows who he is. I could see a script like this getting the Vengeance on Varos treatment had it come out a couple of years later, or even if they'd somehow managed to get Colin Baker to have one more series. I don't think it would be nearly as noteworthy or as interesting to talk about had it not gotten, well, the season 24 treatment. Elizabeth Sandifer has made a good case that this functions particularly well as a piece of children's theatre. On the other hand, given the subject matter and given what the High Rise continues to represent, and given the last few years of context, I can see people coming to this story and going, really Doctor Who's gonna fight pool cleaners and waste disposal robots? At the same time, this seems like an absurd standard to set for Doctor Who, a franchise whose take on the Nazis looks like this. Whilst I believe it's absolutely capable of angry storytelling that goes for the throat of political and corporate responsibility, it is also very twee. So probably the most topical reason for talking about this story, I've actually never really had an opinion on Mel. Probably because my gaze has always been directed elsewhere, usually by the upheaval going on in the show at that moment, how its internal mechanics are being interfered with, or the introduction of someone like Ace. I feel like she's always being overshadowed. So definitely something like this, or Delta and the Bannerman, is what I would recommend to anyone coming off season 14. And her and Pex make a really sweet pair in this. His arc works mainly because of her, I feel comfortable saying. Many a Doctor Who fan has wondered, what was the point where the 7th Doctor became the Machiavellian trickster? When did he become the Sandman, the destroyer of worlds? Some people would say it's Remembrance of the Daleks, because, well, he did destroy a world. But only with McCoy's second story, I think both he and the writers have kind of nailed the character. It's like I said in my Time Worm Apocalypse review, he is the most anarchic of the Doctors. I adored the scene where he uses the rule book to escape. It's played so perfectly by Sylvester.
It's extraordinary, and I don't really expect you to do it. But it is in there.
Every little touch, every little line delivery, it walks the line perfectly between sly and bumbling idiot. The 7th Doctor's actions in this actually reminded me of something Benjamin Zephaniah said in 2017 in regards to Grenfell when he appeared on Frankie Boyle's New World Order.
But the thing that I found really heartening is that people like me who I call myself an anarchist, and people mock us and they say anarchy is impossible, it can't work. The government left the people on their own at a time when they were most needed, and the people just went, right, you organise this, you organise that, we've got that church hall, you do this, you do that. That is real anarchy in action, and it shows you that people can work together when they really need to. And we should just do it more often. We shouldn't wait until there's tragedies and disasters like this. But we think being democratic is voting every 4 or 5 years. That is not being political, that's not being democratic, that's just being apathetic. It's time we become more revolutionary. That doesn't mean violent, that just means taking control of our lives, not just when there's a disaster happening.
Yeah. What he describes here, everyone coming together, working together, anarchy in action, that's exactly what Seven does in this story when he unites the Razzies, the Caretakers, the Blue Kangs, and the Red Kangs, who are of course the best.
Most of the Razzies make tablecloths. We could throw them over the cleaners to slow them down for you to shoot. Ice hot Maddie!
We seem to be getting somewhere at last.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to try and convince Sim to come back.